Greetings to you in this video about how to apply Stoic philosophy to overcome social anxiety in everyday situations. Suppose you struggle with nervousness, fear of judgment, or embarrassment in social interactions. In this case, this video will provide you with the wisdom and powerful strategies of the ancient Stoics to help you cope with these difficulties. The Stoics were a school of Greek philosophers dating back to approximately 3000 BC, who developed a practical system of logic and ethics to achieve tranquility and resilience in the face of life's challenges. Although their teachings emerged many centuries ago, their core principles remain relevant and applicable daily. In this video, we will explore how to use key Stoic concepts and techniques to reduce social anxiety and increase confidence when navigating everyday social situations, such as conversations, public speaking, networking events, and much more. I will share the ideas of great Stoic thinkers such as Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius, whose words illustrate a deep understanding of the human condition. The genius of Stoic philosophy lies in its simplicity and ability to be understood. Anyone can grasp and apply these teachings to their own experience and find solutions. I will use numerous examples from the modern world to ensure these ancient ideas resonate deeply. Music. When social anxiety arises in social situations, as the ancient Stoic Seneca said, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. For many, social anxiety can manifest in physical symptoms such as a rapid heartbeat, sweaty palms, a shaky voice, or even nausea when interacting with others. But it goes beyond just feeling discomfort. This state can cause people to avoid certain social situations out of fear, such as public speaking, meeting new people, or attending gatherings. Remember, if you aspire to something great, you must also dedicate yourself to something great. Overcoming social anxiety requires effort, but the benefits of fully participating in life are immense. Think about all the missed opportunities, connections, and limitations when social fears take over. Imagine that you can confidently pursue a new job, speak at meetings without hesitation, attend social events, and be present without being consumed by anxious thoughts. Philosophers remind us that anxiety itself is a natural reaction. How we perceive and respond to this feeling determines our level of suffering. As Epictetus said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Through the principles of Stoicism, we can reframe our relationship with social anxiety, seeing it not as a terrifying obstacle, but as an opportunity for growth and mastery of our mind. The Stoic dichotomy of control. One of the most fundamental concepts of Stoic philosophy is the dichotomy of control, the idea that we have complete control only over our thoughts, judgments, and actions. Everything else, other people's behavior, external events, and outcomes, lies outside our control. As the Stoics taught, relinquishing the desire to control external events leads to inner strength. When it comes to social anxiety, much of our fear stems from the desire to control what cannot be controlled, how others perceive us, whether they judge or reject us, or whether something embarrassing happens. But the Stoics would argue that this path leads to inner turmoil. Imagine you're about to give a presentation. You may feel anxious thinking, what if I mess up my words? Or, what if people think I'm incompetent? These worries stem from the desire to control how the audience perceives you, which is ultimately beyond your control. However, what you can control is your preparation, your internal dialogue, and how you react during the presentation itself. The ancient Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius expressed this concept as, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." Instead of agonizing over what you cannot control, you can focus on maintaining your composure and preparation. This shift in focus is incredibly empowering. Consider another everyday example, talking to a new person. Anxious thoughts might be, what if they don't like me? Or, what if I say something awkward? Again, their perception of you is outside your control, but you can control your inner calm. Using techniques like square breathing, you can control eye contact and listen attentively. You can control what you choose to say or not say. By focusing exclusively on what you can control in social situations, Stoic philosophy provides a solid foundation for overcoming anxiety. 3 practices of rational thinking. At the heart of social anxiety are irrational thoughts and cognitive distortions that fuel nervousness. As Epictetus wisely said, people are not disturbed by things, but by the view they take of them. Our minds can create anxious stories and worst-case scenarios in social situations that have no basis in reality. The Stoics recognize that while we cannot always control our initial instinctive reactions, we can control how we process and respond to these thoughts and feelings. Consider an example of applying this in practice. Imagine you are at a party and see a group of people you don't know well. Anxious thoughts might start. They'll think I'm weird and awkward if I try to talk to them. This is an irrational perception of a social interaction that hasn't even happened yet. It's this irrational interpretation that causes anxiety and fear. The Stoic approach is to pause, take a deep breath, and begin to rationally question these anxious thoughts. Is that really true? Will they truly think I'm weird just for trying to be friendly? Do I have evidence to say that with certainty? Even if they judge me negatively, how important is that in the grand scheme of things? Have there been times when I thought people judged me harshly, but it wasn't true? By calmly asking such Socratic questions, you weaken the hold of irrational fears. You realize that anxious thoughts are not based on facts, but are instead assumptions about worst-case scenarios. The Roman statesman Seneca reinforced this by saying, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." With consistent practice, by regulating your mind this way, you regain control over irrational and anxious thought cycles and become more grounded in situations instead of consumed by worst-case scenarios. Building confidence through virtue. One of the fundamental principles of Stoicism is that true confidence and self-respect come from living a life rooted in virtue, following reason and wisdom. As Epictetus boldly stated, no man is free who is not master of himself. You cultivate inner strength when your thoughts and actions are aligned with virtues such as courage, temperance, justice, and wisdom. This inner confidence becomes your unshakable rock in the ocean of social anxiety. Let's begin with the virtue of courage. Social fears often arise from avoiding discomfort. We don't want to feel anxious, so we avoid certain situations altogether. However, the Stoics would argue that psychological discomfort is inevitable in life. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make of it." Avoiding discomfort allows our fears to control us. Courage means facing anxiety and making wise choices for a greater purpose. It could be having an honest conversation with a friend about a problem in your relationship, despite feeling nervous, raising your hand at a meeting when you have something valuable to contribute, or introducing yourself to someone new at an event, even if your heart is pounding. As Seneca said, courage never goes out of fashion. Every brave action strengthens your confidence for the next one. It reinforces the belief that you have the strength to endure life's inevitable difficulties. Stoicism also emphasizes the virtue of wisdom and its role in self-management. A person acting from wisdom has perspective. They don't rush to judgments or give excessive weight to irrational thoughts and emotions like social anxiety. A wise person can observe their anxious feelings and say, "This is simply an instinctive reaction based on irrational fears of the unknown." It does not need to control me. They can regulate their mind and body through practices such as negative visualization. Remember, without a prior sacrifice, no attempt is made, and one cannot chase what does not flee. This means you must make an effort or give something up before you reach a goal. It also implies that you can only pursue what is ready to move or change. If something is fixed or uninterested, it cannot be pursued or caught. In the same way, social confidence arises from the practice of wisdom. You catch your anxious thoughts before they spiral out of control. Finally, the Stoics revered the virtue of temperance, which involves maintaining balance, restraint, and self-discipline. This is key to managing social anxiety, as symptoms often include feelings of losing control. The person acting with temperance doesn't get swept up in anxious emotions in the heat of a social interaction. They can remain steady and calm, think before reacting, and have the temperance to pause and reflect on how to respond appropriately. Stoics believed in finding the middle ground, neither being overtaken by pain nor pleasure. While feeling some nervousness is inevitable, it's possible to develop the mental strength to prevent this state from controlling you. You develop an unshakable core of self-confidence by embodying virtues such as courage, wisdom, and temperance in your daily life. You stop being at the mercy of social fears and begin acting from inner strength, presence, and awareness of the present moment. One of the main traps that feed social anxiety is getting stuck in your own mind, consumed with worries about the future or dwelling on the past. The Stoics recognize that the present is the only moment over which you have true control. As Marcus Aurelius wisely said, confine yourself to the present. In social interactions, there's no room for anxious thoughts about what might go wrong or for ruminating on awkward moments. Existing in the living reality before you leaves no space for these thoughts to take root when your mind is focused on the present. Imagine you are having a conversation with a colleague about an upcoming project. Suppose you are fully present, attentively listening. In this case, you cannot simultaneously get tangled in anxious stories like, "What if I say something stupid?" or "I sounded awkward at our last meeting." These thoughts cannot take hold when your mind is anchored in the present. The Stoic philosopher Seneca reinforced this idea by saying, "Life is divided into 3 periods: that which has been, that which is, and that which will be. Of these, the present is short. When you dwell on the past or focus on the future, you miss the most critical period, the fleeting present. You deprive yourself of the richness of human interaction or immediate experience." Fortunately, the ancient Stoics developed powerful mindfulness practices to cultivate and apply present-moment awareness in everyday situations. One highly effective technique is focusing on your breath, in and out. The old and well-known saying goes, "If you watch yourself this way and resist the first distraction of the mind, you can fight with the very means that distract it." Thus, with discipline, you can remain focused, consciously anchoring your mind. Before a social situation, you can free yourself from anxious anticipation by focusing on your surroundings, the sights, sounds, and physical sensations of reality. Another mindfulness practice in Stoicism is to pause and fully perceive your environment through the 5 senses. If you are talking to someone, instead of getting lost in your insecure thoughts, you can feel the floor beneath your feet, observe their facial expressions, and pick up on their micro-emotions and body language. You can hear the surrounding sounds around you. This technique pulls your consciousness out of habitual mental wandering and directs it toward the vivid, living reality unfolding in the interaction. In every stage of the interaction, you act from the right perception gained from your healthy senses. When you use data from the five senses, you avoid biased assumptions and stories your anxious mind creates. By existing purely as a present and observant consciousness, you constantly practice mindfulness, freeing yourself from the chains of social anxiety and anchoring yourself in the reality of the present moment. You experience each interaction with renewed clarity and depth, training your mind to stay rooted in the here and now instead of being absorbed by anxious thoughts. The more you live fully anchored in the present, the less power social anxiety will have over you. Reflecting on social interactions. One of the central practices that the Stoics emphasized was taking time for self-reflection and constant growth. As the famous quote from Socrates says, "The unexamined life is not worth living." This is especially important when it comes to overcoming social anxiety in the long run. By reflecting on your experiences honestly and rationally, you can identify areas for improvement while adjusting your perspective. Too often, those who suffer from social anxiety endlessly worry about perceived flaws or awkward moments in social interactions. "I sounded so awkward when I tried to make a joke," or "they probably think I'm weird because I didn't talk much." However, the Stoics would argue that how others perceive you is ultimately beyond your control, and that worrying about others' opinions is a colossal waste of mental energy. As a wise Stoic would say, "He is a fool who values things outside his own power and undervalues those within it." The opinions others form of you based on one interaction are beyond your control. Whether they think you're awkward or strange is their business, not yours. How you respond and grow from the experience is within your control. Remember that if you learn to accept others' criticism and overcome any bitterness it might cause, you gain something incredibly powerful: freedom from being a prisoner of others' judgments. Instead of fixating on imagined negative perceptions, reflect on what you did well in the interaction. What didn't go as expected, and how can you improve? This frees you from the weight of others' judgments. Furthermore, the Stoics focused on the separation between what is under your control and what is not. As Seneca wrote, "The path to greatness is arduous, but it can be overcome if people stop worshiping trivialities in their hearts and seeking base aims." The key lies in your reaction to failure or embarrassment. You cannot fully control avoiding these outcomes, but you can control your response to them. For example, suppose you had an important presentation at work that didn't go as well as you hoped. You stumbled over a few words, maybe even forgot your speech at a critical moment. Excessive worry and self-punishment will solve nothing. The wise response, which Stoicism encourages, is to analyze what led to these mistakes without harsh self-judgment. Did you need more preparation? Were you feeling unwell physically? Second, identify specific lessons, such as dedicating more time to practice or using cue cards. Third, show compassion to yourself. Remember, we are all imperfect. Fourth, focus on doing better next time rather than endlessly dwelling on the past. The Stoics emphasize the importance of this approach, with Seneca saying, "Make it a habit to bear the moods of others as lightly as possible and to constantly work on improving your own mind." Social anxiety often stems from a lack of resilience when things don't go as planned. Instead of collapsing under the weight of perceived judgment or failure, reflect constructively, let it go, and dedicate yourself to growth. By applying this rational, growth-oriented approach to reflecting on social situations, you gradually become more confident and less paralyzed by anxiety. As Seneca said, "The road is long if you follow precepts, but short and helpful if you follow patterns." Learn from each experience through the lens of Stoic philosophy. Gradually, your anxious patterns dissolve as your resilience strengthens. What once seemed frightening becomes another opportunity to demonstrate your philosophical resilience. In this video, we explored the profound teachings of ancient Stoic philosophers and how to apply them to overcome social anxiety in our modern lives. We started by understanding how anxiety holds us back from fully participating in life experiences. The Stoics then provided a solid foundation for managing anxiety through key principles such as the dichotomy of control, rational thinking, the development of true self-confidence through virtues like courage, wisdom, and self-discipline, and cultivating present moment awareness through mindfulness practices to stay grounded in reality rather than lost in anxious thoughts. Objective reflection on social experiences to learn and grow instead of fixating on imagined judgments or failures was also emphasized. Though these concepts were born thousands of years ago, the Stoic system provides practical and timeless guidance for anyone struggling with social anxiety in the modern age. Their words remind us that we alone have the power to control our minds and find inner resilience amidst life's inevitable storms. As Marcus Aurelius encouragingly wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." This exploration of Stoic wisdom has given you new perspectives and concrete tools for more effectively managing your social fears. The path requires diligent practice, but the rewards are immense. The ability to face life's adventures and connections without being constantly gripped by anxiety. You should start gradually incorporating these strategies into your daily experiences. Notice when anxious thoughts arise and apply Stoic principles instead of viewing them as something to be feared. Over time, strengthening yourself with this ancient wisdom will lead to greater self-confidence, mental resilience, and the ability to handle whatever life throws at you with grace. You've got this under control. Thank you for watching this video. Give it a like if you enjoyed it, and I hope these tips will be useful to you. Share this video with those who might need it, and leave your opinion in the comments. Wisdom must be shared in order to flourish. Right? I am a Stoic, and I'll know that you made it to the end. Now, will you choose the path of Stoicism to the right or to the left? I have 2 Stoic videos that you will enjoy. See you next time.